Pouring Takes. I'm Charlie Van.
And I am Rayya, coming at you from Maple Landing here in downtown Dallas near Love Field Airport. This is a beautiful spot. It's what, our second time here?
Yeah, I would say about our second time. Came here for a good Cowboys-Eagles away game.
I just
Great
came here
food.
for snacks. I was going to say, I literally
Great
just came
food.
for the snacks.
Great drinks.
But yeah, we have a special guest today.
We do. We have Mr. Eli Jordan. He is the host on the T-Box on 96.7 and 13, The Ticket right here in Dallas. Eli, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We're like, we need to bring in a great golf expert, and I know you're one of those guys. And
it is Masters week.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I mean, hence the green jacket. I feel like I had to be on theme for this.
I missed the memo here. We both the green.
You know what we did actually talk? I actually sent him a text this morning and I said, so what are we wearing today? Like I felt, we never coordinate outfits, but today I was like, what are we wearing?
I was thinking, we got the Stars tonight, but golf polo makes all the sense in the world.
That's true. That's true.
Although I was thinking about wearing one of those old school golf hats. I don't have one though. But
I think you'd be more the beanie that has the helicopter on top of it.
You know what? You know what you should have worn? Your eclipse glasses.
Oh, that is true. What did you guys think about the eclipse yesterday?
I was under the impression that it was probably going to be another over media hyped, just okay, cool. I thought it was really, really awesome. I thought it was really, really cool. I'm glad the weather cooperated too. For the last week we've been here. Well, it doesn't look like it's very favorable for the viewing experience. And yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, a few clouds here and there, but I thought we were very fortunate to be able to see it. And I'm glad that I took the day off work and made a point to go watch it. So yeah.
Where did you go watch it? I know you're based in Arlington.
Yeah, I live in Arlington. A place called Grease Monkey that's not too far from us.
Great hamburgers.
Yeah, good burgers.
It's a Grease Monkey.
Yeah. Great food.
So went down there and caught a late lunch. And my wife, she had to go to work unfortunately, but she took a late lunch and she came and met me and we watched the 15 or 20 minutes where it was really, really cool. Yeah. And then she was like, well, gotta go back to work. And I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna sit here and have 3 or 4 more beers. So.
That was me. I was like in the middle of a work day. I went up to the rooftop of the garage and I felt like it was so cinematic. It didn't feel real to me. Like it was so cool though.
Yeah, I was out at a cookout and I loved how it got chilly.
Yeah.
It was kind of eerie, but you could just tell right then and there how chilly it got, and then right when everything went out, I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah, it was really, really neat, and then, being able to actually kind of take the glasses off and look at it whenever it was completely covered was neat. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. Funny enough, one of the regulars that comes up to Grease Monkey, she has a lemur, and she always brings this lemur with her, and she had it on the patio yesterday, and whenever it got totally dark, the lemur started freaking out, and we were like, man, why is the lemur freaking out? Apparently lemurs, that's when they're hunted mainly, is at night.
Oh no!
Oh,
that's when predators come for lemurs, and so it freaked out thinking that the sun had gone down and was going bananas, and then the sun came back out, and it was just fine after that, but it's weird how animals freak out when things like that happen.
Well, that's why I left my dog, because I heard that. My buddy, he's big into all that astrofish, all that astro. The eclipse is huge. So I heard that animals do go crazy. So I was like, yeah, I'll leave my dog, but I couldn't imagine a lemur.
Yeah, it disrupts their circadian rhythm, right? It just makes them so confused. But hey, it was a really cool experience. So glad we got to do it. Speaking of exciting things happening, we have a lot to get through today. Like you already teased, we're definitely going to talk about the Masters, but we've got a huge UFC pay-per-view card this weekend. Maple Landing is actually going to have the fight here for the first time. So I'll be here. Come through, get your whiskey, get your snacks. It's going to be a great show.
Which, speaking of whiskey, we all decided to have some whiskey here for this episode. So I'll let you guys go first, because I think you guys decided
we got the same one.
Whiskey. What are you guys drinking?
What did we get here? Let's see.
I just copied you, to be perfectly honest.
We are going with the Teeling Small Batch. And I know absolutely nothing of this spirit whatsoever. It just sounded like a fun name, so why not?
Yeah.
Our producer Tanner did the same thing.
I just wanted to try something different because I could have easily gone with Makers or Crown. They have $6 whiskey specials here.
It's a good deal.
It is
It's a really good
deal.
And some good brands on there too. Knob Creek, Crown.
I was thinking
Bullet.
Buffalo Trace would have been a good
Buffalo
one.
Trace is good, yeah.
But yeah.
Makers, yeah.
I went with something I did know a little bit of that I've had recently. Still Austin, out of Austin, Texas. It is a really good bourbon. So
Oh, you're just gonna go for
It's
it.
gonna dive right in.
yeah, just
Okay,
making sure, but it's good.
cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's just salute.
Charlie has no manners, no home training.
It's still Austin. It's good. It is good. Actually, got to have it a couple of months ago, old fashioned.
Solid.
So, what do you usually like to drink? Are you normally a whiskey guy? You mentioned you got a couple of beers.
I mean, I pretty much all of it. Never been a big gin person.
Yeah.
Tastes like chewing on pine needles. But,
It's a good description.
Yeah, but beyond that, I mean, I like a good whiskey every now and again, mixed cocktail. You know, the Tito's guy, just do a little Tito's and soda from time to time.
Tito's.
I'll try different beers. I travel a decent amount with work to different golf resorts in different parts of the country, and so I'll usually try and find some local beers that they have on property that they carry. So yeah.
And through your experience in that, what would you say is like a drink for golf? Obviously we know about the Arnold Palmer, like non-alcoholic.
Sure,
But as far
sure.
as like,
Hey, you could get a spiked Arnold Palmer.
You
That
could,
is
you
one
could,
of my
you could. That
favorite
is-
cocktails,
okay.
by the way.
Also known as the John Daly.
Yes.
that's right.
That's not a bad one. The Transfusion's been very popular lately. Transfusion vodka, grape juice, ginger ale with a little lime squeeze.
Ooh, that sounds so refreshing.
Delightful
Yeah.
and very dangerous if you're not careful.
Is that what everyone was drinking at the Waste Management Open?
I don't know what they might have been drinking gasoline.
Yeah.
for Waste Management. I'm not sure what they were drinking. But just straight fireball.
Right? They were just living their best lives.
Yeah, you say that, I guess.
Yeah, I finally went to I went to the Byron last year, and I think I did some. It was kind of like an Arnold Palmer, right? I know there was vodka involved.
Sure.
So it was there was like kind of a raspberry lemonade tang. All I know, it's like one of those, those big gallons. It's like you pay like $40. Like it got me. It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
Sounds delightful. We got that coming up, by the way, in just about 3 weeks.
That's crazy.
I want to
Nelson,
go.
Well, let's get into, talk about the T-Box and, just, I know you guys got some appearances coming up. Where can we catch you guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you bet. Of course, I'm the editor of Avid Golfer Magazine, in addition to hosting the T-Box with Craig Rosengard and Rick Arnett. And about a year and a half ago, they approached me about joining the show because I've been working for Avid Golfer for a while. And then my Saturday show at the Ticket dissolved when Ty Walker didn't want to work Saturdays anymore.
Yeah.
He has since left the station. And I said, sure, and it gives us all a little bit of flexibility. We can take a Saturday off if we need to. And, Rick's getting up there now, and I'm sure retirement's not probably too terribly far off. So yeah, it made sense for me to kind of join up with those guys and talk golf every week, and so we do that. And then with the magazine, you can find it at all the pro shops, at PGA Tour Superstore, and it's a free publication. So if you see one in the pro shop that you happen to be in, if you're playing golf, you can snag one for free. And yeah, follow me on Instagram, and I've got Twitter and all that stuff. I'm at the Eli Jordan, and it's easy. So yeah.
Has golf always been a big part of your life, or where did that interest?
I think when I was a kid, my dad introduced me to the game, which I think is probably the story for most people that start playing. His dad or granddad introduced him to it at a pretty young age. And I played probably starting when I was about 8, but maybe played with dad once, twice a year. And then once I got into high school, I mainly focused on baseball.
Oh, okay.
And then once I graduated high school, I was like, well, now that the baseball career's over with, what can I focus my competitive energy on? And I was like, well, golf makes sense. So I kind of went back to playing golf and really started playing a lot and been playing ever since. And yeah, it's fun. For me, it's also a good business contact.
Yeah.
Anytime you can get out and you can't find another spot hardly where you can get 4 hours in front of your boss.
Yeah.
If you have a big client that you're trying to close a business deal with, or you're trying to get a job, or you're networking, there's not a lot of places where you can have 4 hours with that person without being interrupted.
4 hours and some good cocktails.
That is. Some of those aren't mixed Arnold Palmer or
Spiked Arnold
Palmer.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, no, it's been good, and I enjoy doing the magazine and getting to travel a little bit, and the schedule's pretty flexible, and of course, get to play some free golf from time to time.
Oh my God.
There's
That has to be
no
awesome.
problem with that either.
So I played varsity golf my freshman year of high school.
Okay.
I was not very good. I was just, they needed more girls on the team. I'm a basketball player. I needed something to do in the spring, and I did not want to run track.
Yeah, I was never a big runner.
So I played golf that one season. We traveled. I lived in Houston at the time. We traveled all over Houston, played at different golf courses, and then the following year I started playing AAU ball. So that was the beginning and the end of my golf career. And then when I worked for Expedia, we got to play at we did a charity event at the Cowboys golf course. That was a really cool experience.
Sure.
That was the first time I'd really played outside of like Top Golf here.
Do you remember what golf cart you got? All the golf carts have different former players' names on them.
I don't remember. It was so long. It was like 2016.
Yeah, the last time I was there, I got the Ben DiNucci cart.
Okay, True Brand.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I want to say my brain is saying it's Michael Irvin because I'm 88, but I feel like I'm making that up.
They definitely have one.
But it was a really cool experience. Like you said, it was like I got FaceTime with a VP that I wouldn't have gotten had I not been able to play in the tournament. They were like, "Oh, you have golf experience. You should play in the charity tournament." And I was like, "Are you sure?" I just like drinking. But for me, like watching golf, I actually do like watching golf on TV. I remember during COVID when the Masters were on in November,
which was bizarre.
Yeah.
So bizarre, especially with the shorter days.
Yeah.
But I remember I was locked in like all 3 days. Like I was just like I couldn't stop. Like it was fun. I enjoy it. I don't know. What is your golf experience?
Well, so I did take one semester golf course at Richland College. I guess now it's Dallas College.
Okay.
And then when I was at UTA, I covered golf for about a semester, which was cool because they won the Southland Conference back then. I'll say what's interesting, trying to get like quotes mid-game, like you're walking with them, golf balls are flying. That was the rush. But I've never played like a full, like actual, game, which I want to. I think that's like my goal.
Well, you know somebody in the industry, so we'll have to get you out.
Well, what's your advice, real quick, on that as far as getting started? Is it?
Well, buy some clubs.
Yeah.
They don't have to be good clubs. Just go find some that are cheap, that are maybe refurbished or used, and just get out and see how you like it. I mean, lessons obviously help a great deal when you're first starting out. So I would recommend finding someone that is a good instructor that may not break the bank just yet. I mean, you can find golf coaches that are $200-300 an hour. Go find a guy that is maybe just passed his PAT, which is like the qualification to become a golf pro, and find a guy that charges $50-75 an hour and take 5 or 6 or 7 lessons and see if you see improvement. And if you like it, then continue with it. But it's rewarding. Whatever. Yeah. It's infinitely complex to play and frustrating as hell most of the time. But it's still a lot of fun, and just being able to get out and get some fresh air and get some sun. And
I do like the outside, and my favorite thing was being at the driving range. Like honestly, like just like blacking out and just focusing on practicing. I liked that.
Sure. Do you have a particular like local course you find yourself on, like when you get the free time?
Yeah, I mean, being an Arlington resident, I'm kind of a muni rat. Like I like to play the municipal golf courses. I don't play I've been fortunate enough to play a lot of the country clubs in DFW just because of my job.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the feel of the municipal course. So living in Arlington, I play Lake Arlington Golf Course a lot. I play Tierra Verde a lot. I play Texas Rangers Golf Club a lot, which is cool. It's kind of like Cowboys. It's a Major League Baseball branded golf course, the only one in the country. And they've got a lot of different memorabilia and stuff there. So yeah, it's cool to be able to play those courses. And City of Arlington's always been really good to me, especially since I got into the golf industry. And they appreciate having me out. And so yeah, I like to play those. But we'll travel. I mean, I've played pretty much all the Dallas courses, pretty much any course in Fort Worth. Yeah. And all over the place. I've played this year. I'm hoping to surpass the 200 course mark.
Wow.
Of courses that I played. Yeah. So I'm at about 185 now. If I can get 15 or so new ones in this year, I should be able to get there.
It is April. It is totally possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to Florida at the end of this month. So
awesome.
To play 3 different courses down there. So yeah.
And then doesn't the PGA have a headquarters here in Frisco?
They do. Yeah, in Frisco. Yeah, that's a wonderful facility. If you haven't been up there, it's staggering to see just how the footprint of all of it. It's huge, and they've got. I tell people, they ask me what's it like, and I say they quite literally thought of everything. There's not one thing that you go to that resort and you go, man, I wish they had this.
Yeah.
They had it. I mean, whether it be, affordable dining, expensive fine dining, they've got swimming pools, they've got
Swimming pools.
two golf courses, they've got a luxury hotel, they've got
Spas.
yeah, spa, all of it.
Yeah.
Retail. They got I think a 10,000 square foot putting course. They've got a short course. They have two golf courses, one of which is the championship course. It's going to host the PGA Championship in 2027. It'll actually host the Women's PGA Championship next year.
Ooh, exciting.
So yeah, it's awesome. It's definitely worth checking out. Even if you're not a big golfer, it's cool just to go walk around the property.
It's just that wow
Field trip.
factor. Yeah, there
Field
we
trip.
go. We got to do podcast.
We're gonna do that.
Field trip.
Yeah,
Go
check
see
them out.
it.
Yeah, so let's just jump into the Masters. I mean, I have a list of golfers here and the odds of them winning. I'm a total gambling girl.
Okay.
I can tell you straight up, my favorite golfer is Bryson DeChambeau. I'm an SMU girl. I literally can't help it.
All right.
Also, I just love that he's a total musclehead, and he's different than like everybody else used to be.
He's definitely got some interesting thoughts on how the game should be played.
Yeah.
And but I respect the hell out of it, though. I mean, he's helped change golf to a certain extent, and probably for the better. I mean, although it's funny to see these guys that really can't swing a lick just trying to hit it as hard as they possibly can, because that's what DeChambeau did. But yeah, I mean, he's a good player. There's no question.
He definitely brings his own flair to it.
No
I feel.
doubt.
What about you? Do you have a favorite golfer?
Well, I'm going to go with the local guy as well. I'm going to go with Scotty. I mean,
Scotty.
obviously eyes are on him. I know right now he's the best odds favorite right now, I
Yes.
believe.
4-1.
4-1. So those are pretty good odds. I like those odds.
That's probably about as low as anybody's been since Tiger was in his heyday, and I don't have that information in front of me, but 4-1, that's
pretty good.
Yeah, that's some chalk there.
And he's had a good, opening season. Won the Arnold Palmer, also the Players Championship as well. So he's on the right track. I mean, do you like those odds a lot, though? I mean, what have you seen out of him that you feel like might justify that right now?
I think that just the fact that tee to green, he has been far and away the best player on tour for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
His putting can be a tad questionable at times, but he's so good tee to green that you really don't. He doesn't have to putt great to win. He just has to putt tour average. If he putts tour average, he's going to have a chance to win. And mind you, Augusta's green complexes are far different than any they see throughout the course of the year. They're really fast, they're really firm. You can get in spots where it's just borderline impossible to two-putt, so that could be a reason maybe not to look at Scotty this week. But if he putts at tour average, he's going to be right there in the conversation. He's just so good off the tee and into the greens, and his short game is world-class. He really is a great player. And on top of that, I just feel like he's kind of got the right blood pressure for the job.
Yeah.
He never seems to get too far up or too
calm.
far down. He always seems very locked in, very calm. He's a family guy. He's a spiritual guy. He's very religious, and I think things like that. He just seems to be a really well-grounded guy for his age.
Yeah, he's what mid, like 26, 27?
Probably
mid-20s,
somewhere in
yep.
that.
So he's still got even more time. So
there's
He
no
hasn't even hit
question.
his prime yet. That's incredible.
what do you think he's done for the Dallas area too? I've talked to people who don't quite follow golf, but they know him, and obviously especially after that victory 2 years ago. So what do you think he has done so far, like as far as this community here in Dallas?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any question that Dallas is very rich with top quality players. I mean, from older guys like Lee Trevino, who's lived here in the area forever, that has helped grow the game, and then what Jordan was able to do in 2015. That really, you saw a lot more kids start picking up the game, and when Jordan was playing at the Byron Nelson, whenever he was in high school still, and was getting exemptions to do that. It's between Jordan and Scotty, and now Will Zalatoris and Davis Riley, and DeChambeau lives here locally.
Yep.
I mean, there's 15, 20 top-level touring pros that live in the area. Ryan Palmer, Tom Hoagie, Tom Kim, lots of the LPGA
Dallas
Tour
was a
stars.
hotbed for golf.
All live in DFW. So yeah, I mean, and you can see why, because A, you can play almost year-round
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
It's right in the middle of the country, so when you're flying to these different tournaments, it's really only about 3 or 4 hours to get anywhere.
That's true.
Which makes it a great, and that's why the PGA of America moved here, because
Yeah.
they wanted to be right in the middle of the country.
That'd be central.
Weather usually, most of the time, is pretty good golf-friendly
You
weather.
really only get maybe 3 weeks a year where it's
Yeah.
maybe too cold or too hot.
Too hot. I would say too hot would be more.
But
of a
yeah,
problem.
if you pick the right places to play, if you pick somewhere that has a lot of trees, you can avoid the heat to a degree. So yeah, but what Scotty's been able to do over the last couple of years has just been, I mean, Tiger-esque, really. I mean, we haven't seen somebody that's gone on a heater quite like this since really Tiger was in his prime.
And that's a great feat and great, compliment there for Scotty.
There's no question.
I know coming in right behind him at 10-1 odds is Rory McIlroy.
Oh, I have like a love-hate relationship with him. I think I really loved him when he first came on the scene, and then I don't know if it was his personality that rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I felt like he just got really cocky, and like, I'm biased because I also watch tennis, and what happened between him and Carolyn Wozniacki like really rubbed me the wrong way. I can't help it, okay? But I feel like every time his name is brought up, there's like a flavor of redemption attached to his name.
Yeah, I mean, Rory is, from what I understand, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Rory or interview Rory like I have some of the other touring pros, but from what I understand, he is one of the nicest guys on tour.
Really?
Like, he's very, very respectful, very likable. If you get a chance to play with him, he's a lot of fun to play with. It'll be interesting to see what he can do at Augusta, because this is the one major that he doesn't have. He's won the other 3, and so this would complete the career Grand Slam for him if he could win at Augusta. And if you'll remember, several years back, he had a lead going to the back 9 and then hit one out of bounds on 10, and then the meltdown was on after that.
I do
and he just
remember
wasn't
that.
able to close the deal. And so he's been kind of fighting those demons in his head since then. But he's got every bit of the game to do it. Again, his putter can be a little questionable at times. His wedge game can be a little bit subpar at times. But he hits the driver better than anybody on the face of the earth. And when you have that kind of length, and Augusta is not considered to be a real long course by today's major standards. They've done what they can to try and lengthen it a little bit. But he's got the capability and the firepower off the tee to really bully that golf course. And if he can get his wedge game to cooperate and his putter to cooperate, he's got a shot.
Who's somebody like sneaky that we should watch out for?
Sneaky. Just from the list here, Ludwig Aubert is a 25-1 shot, a kid from Texas Tech. And I believe this will be his first Masters, so probably needs a little bit of seasoning there to kind of understand what the greens are all about there. It's hard for first-time participants at Augusta to win because they're just... They get kind of overwhelmed by the green complexes, but he's a really, really fine young player. And Joaquin Niemann as well, although he's a LIV Tour guy, he's been as good as it gets on the LIV this year. And a couple of 25-1 shots, not bad. And Victor Hovland, who knows where his game's at this point. He's changed coaches for some odd reason after he won $1 zillion last year. Tony Finau is another name to look for. He tends to play pretty well at Augusta. Was right there in it in 2019 until he hit one in the water on 12, the one that Tiger ended up winning. So, yeah, those are a few that you might take a look at. Aubert, Niemann, and then Tony Finau. Okay,
you brought up the T word. I got to ask about Tiger. I read an article the other day that he has been celibate in preparing for the Masters.
I saw that. Yeah, he wanted to focus all of his attention on trying to...
A different swing.
Hey! Drink!
It was there.
Teed it up, if you
Teed
will.
it up, yes.
You also drink.
But yeah, Tiger, I mean, he's got every bit of local knowledge you could ever have from playing it so many times. And I think this would be his 26th straight cut
26.
made, which it would be a record if he makes the cut. So I really feel like that's probably priority one, is just seeing the weekend and then kind of see where the chips fall from there. I'm not sure, given his injury history with what's going on with his leg, and if you've ever been to Augusta, which I was fortunate enough to go to a practice round there, it is incredibly, the terrain is very difficult. It's very hilly. to the point where the TV doesn't really do it justice. I mean, over the years with the, as HD TV's gotten better and better and better, you can see a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't give you a real true look at just how undulating those fairways are. And given his leg, I just don't know if 4 days in a row, it might take too much of a toll on him physically.
Well, and he's not even really in these
Yeah,
odds.
I picked the first half.
Okay.
I didn't bring it all.
But I mean, still, the fact that he's not even in those top odds just shows how the condition.
I will tell you that this is something that I read this morning, that of the official World Golf Rankings, which you can throw out the guys that the old hat that have been playing there forever, past champions, Jose Maria Olazabal and guys like that aren't in the World Golf Rankings anymore. The lowest ranked player that is in the field this week, Tiger Woods.
Wow.
I believe it.
Especially for that, the legacy he's had, but just the condition he's in, and we've seen in variety sports lately some legends of their own, right off into the sunset. How do you think that's coming around the corner for Tiger? You think he's still going to want to push a little bit just because? Just to prove.
At the beginning of this year, he was on record saying that he wanted to try and play one event a month.
Yeah.
I do remember him saying that. Yep.
He had to withdraw from his own event because that was apparently from food poisoning.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. I mean, one a month seems like that's probably a little bit of wishful thinking, but I think at this point you'll probably see him at all 4 of the majors and a handful of other events, maybe 8 to 10 a year. And he's just going to have to see how his body reacts, and cold weather does him no good. I'm not sure what the forecast looks like for Augusta over the next few days, but if it's going to be chilly in the morning, that's not going to be good for him. He needs it to be probably close to 75 degrees when he's teeing off, or he's going to have a hard time getting that leg warmed up. And you noticed it last year.
Yeah.
He was walking around on a peg leg, and he's had another year to rehab it, but I just don't know that there's any getting it better than it is currently.
Yeah.
I think it's probably maxed out as far as the amount of rehab he can do.
So the best is behind him, for the most part.
Yeah, I would say so. If there's one place, well, I'd say 2 places that he could potentially win a major again. One would be Augusta because he just knows so much about the course and he's so comfortable there. And the other place would be probably the old course at St. Andrews, but I don't think it comes up in the open rotation again for like 3 more years. So by then he probably will be too old to do it. But.
I was going to say, as someone who had knee surgery 3 years ago, to this day, when it is cold outside, I am struggle city.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and maybe he's holding on a little longer for Charlie to get up there too, maybe if he can. I mean, that would be something special, being in the same tournament.
And Tiger, they will have him back to play at Augusta until he wants to no longer do it, and then after that he'll be out there hitting the opening tee shot like we've seen Nicklaus and Palmer and Sam Snead and Gary Player and all those guys do, over the years. So he's got enough skins on the wall to where he can probably play in it until he doesn't want to anymore. And he also strikes me as a type that won't overstay his, he won't stick around too long, if that makes sense. He'll know when he can no longer compete, and he's just taking up a spot, and let's just move on and give that spot to somebody else.
Yeah. Well,
okay, so make your picks. What do you got? I'll start with you, Eli.
I'm going to give you 2.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
Actually, I'm going to give you 3. I'll give you who I think is going to win, who I would like to see win, and then I will give you a long shot.
I love it. I love this game.
I think you'd be probably pretty crazy not to bet on Scotty this week, given the odds, given just how good he's been, and the fact that the putter's been cooperating over the last few weeks. It's hard not to bet on him. He's so good tee to green, and he's obviously shown that he can win it there. And I just don't know if a lot of these live tour guys like McIlroy or Koepka, Joaquin Niemann, I just don't know if their games are in good enough shape because they're essentially playing carnival golf now. Like there's no cut. They don't have, they've got millions of dollars that they've been given, and I just don't know if their mind is right to go and compete against these guys that really have been grinding every week to make cuts, to earn paychecks. And so that kind of takes out a guy like Cameron Smith as well, or Bryson DeChambeau. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
But
it's fine. I know who he is.
I think Scotty's probably your best bet. if you're asking me to pick somebody that's kind of middle of the pack who I would like to see win, I'd love to see Jordan get back into the winner's circle. And
I was going to say the same thing.
Sure, I mean, and if you subscribe to the horses for courses theory, he's been good at Augusta every year. And yes, he's had his issues elsewhere, but he's always been rock solid there. He knows how to play the course. If his putter gets hot, look out. And then, I hate to be this guy, but if we're going for a long shot, I hate to pick another Dallas guy, but I'd really like Will Zalatoris to be in the conversation. He finished second there a couple years back, and then had to have the surgery on his back and had to come back from that. But he's been playing better, and again, just such a crisp ball striker, and that means a lot around Augusta National because you've got to get your yardages right. You've got to hit the parts of the greens where the hole is cut or nowhere to miss, or you're going to get just absolutely butchered out there. And for that reason, I like Will as a long shot.
I'm going with Scotty. I mean, I've been following him, seeing how he's been doing this open season. You're right. I mean, I love his composure. I love the confidence. He's still a young guy. Like you said, the putter's been working well. I would say guy we haven't been talking about, and we just witnessed a back-to-back champion, with the Chiefs here, and I feel like Jon Rahm's still a guy to look out for.
Why are you in my head?
By the way, I did see his court. They're having the dinner tomorrow night.
Yes, the champions dinner.
Yeah. He's having his mom's lentil stew. That's one thing in there, which is cool. I love lentil. But I feel like that guy has so much confidence, too.
There's no doubt.
He's a 12-1. I think he's definitely going to be that guy in the rear, a little bit of rear mirror, Scotty.
Yeah, I would say the only thing I would add to that is my long shot is Ricky Fowler. I have a weird obsession with him. I don't know what it is.
I don't think that's a bad pick.
Yeah,
he had a really
I feel like
good
he's
season
always
last year.
Yeah, last year was a good year for him, and he's always been around in contention.
And he's a fan favorite too.
He really is.
He really is. Another guy that you hear, kind of in my line of work, you hear things about certain players, and from what I understand, he's a super nice guy. So.
My favorite photo ever of Ricky Fowler is from what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, where all the other golfers were in this photo with their wives, and he was single at the time, and he was kind of like this, and everybody else, everyone else was kissing their wives. I thought that was funny.
Well, forgive me, I might not know all the inside of the Masters history, but when was the last time there has been a back-to-back? Or has it been pretty tough to have a back-to-back winner?
It'd have to be Tiger, I would think.
Probably, okay.
But yeah, it's definitely been a minute.
Yeah.
I think Jose Maria Olazabal maybe went back-to-back. I'd have to look it up.
It's possible, but it's. I just look at these especially these top three, and it's going to be fun to watch. I always feel like the Masters is not far from kind of how March Madness, you have a guy in mind, and then things get interesting by that day too.
All I know is when I watch the Masters, all of a sudden I think I'm good at golf, and I just yell at the TV uncontrollably.
So, let me ask you while I'm looking this up, what would be your Masters dinner? Go.
Ooh.
I was actually thinking about that earlier, and so thank you for bringing that up. I would do a filet mignon.
Fancy pants.
I would do.
You roasted me for always bringing up filet mignons on the show.
But I like it.
Nothing wrong with a good steak.
Yeah, salmon and pasta, whether that be salmon and Alfredo pasta.
Okay.
I love the carbs. I would do probably maybe turkey or ham omelet. How big is the course, by the way? I was kind of following it with Rom.
I think basically they usually do
it's a big sit-down dinner, essentially.
I think they usually do
a
couple of starters and then a couple of entrees and then a dessert.
Yeah.
Usually is kind of how it works. But I think you can kind of do whatever you want.
I mean, it's your night.
Yeah,
it's like the equivalent of your wedding, Charlie.
Steak. Yeah, there you go.
That the players actually have to pay for the champions dinner.
All right,
yes,
so we'll
figure. That.
So that steak, that's why my steak choice. It depends. I would do for dessert. I'd do a warm apple pie with some ice cream.
All right.
I'm not a big sweet person, so what about you?
Sounds good to me. I thought Scotty's menu was actually pretty interesting. He just could some sliders. But if it's me, I'm probably doing some kind of steak, a nice cowboy ribeye with some compound butter.
Y'all are just so fancy.
Maybe some sort of fish, swordfish or something as an alternate, if you're not a beef guy. Then probably some high-level mac and cheese, maybe some asparagus.
I do love mac and cheese.
That is a good combo.
Yeah, maybe like a warm brownie with ice cream on it.
Would you want the mac and cheese to come out with the steak, or would you put it for the swordfish as your side? Or does it matter?
It'd just be the side that you get.
Yeah.
I would do like a blend between like an East African / Indian style barbecue.
Oh.
So like we do like spare ribs. We do like
we're fancy.
Yeah,
filet
we're fancy.
mignon in like a very spicy marinade. I could do chicken tikka off the grill with some biryani. You know, I would want it to reflect like me as a person.
Of course, yeah.
And yes, I do have expensive taste, but I think it would be really cool. It would be like an opportunity to be like, here's a piece of Indian / East African culture that you may not know about.
And I do enjoy when the winners from different nations pick something that is more cultural to them, culturally significant to them. You know, when Hideki Matsuyama won, they did a lot of like sushi and Japanese fare.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Could you imagine if they did like the Benihana, the teppanyaki style for him?
They just actually wheeled in like a big,
they had a big show.
laptop in there.
Flipping the shrimps at everybody.
Yeah, just
onion volcanoes for everyone.
That's right. You flip the shrimp tail into the jacket pocket and the green jacket pocket. Tiger Woods, by the way, 0102 was the last.
Oh, okay. Well, so it's
has been a while.
It's been a while.
Many moons ago.
Statistically, we are due for a back-to-back champion.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see. I mean, I'm super excited. I can't believe it's already here. Like, so drink to that, the Masters. So we will see. We'll see what happens.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Let's stay in all of the excitement that is sports.
Yeah.
Both the Mavs and the Stars are making their final playoff push. We are down to the last 4 games for both teams, with both teams being in action tonight. Mavs got the Hornets. Stars have the Sabres. Stars are in an interesting clinching situation, right?
They are.
Yeah. So it is an interesting, clinching situation. So as far as what that looks like, if they win against the Buffalo Sabres, and that means like, any fashion, if the Colorado Avalanche lose to the Minnesota Wild, go Wild. Go Wild.
Which we usually don't say around here.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna.
Pretty large rival of ours, but
for this time,
I'm willing to look past it.
I see Tanner shaking his head back there.
Go. And if the Jets lose to the Predators.
In regulation.
In regulation. So, but I love it though. I love what this team has been doing here on this back half stretch. Just can't believe we're like right here.
Yeah.
So close.
And you hope they can kind of keep some of that momentum headed into the postseason. And if you've watched a lot of hockey, then you know that all you really need is for your goaltender to get hot for 3 weeks or so, and you're going to be right there at the end. And he's been hot, and you just hope that he can continue that as it moves towards the postseason. But if you look at it, Buffalo tonight, they're still in postseason contention, so they're not really, they're not going to just give up.
Yeah.
Winnipeg, they're obviously a really good team. They've still got seeding to play for. And then you've got Seattle. They've officially been eliminated, so hopefully you can go and take care of business against them. And St. Louis, they're still in postseason contention. So 3 out of these last 4 games, the teams still do have something to play for.
So let me ask you this. Are we a superstitious group? Because, the team that wins the President's Cup doesn't necessarily have the best postseason. Are you okay with like a slight backslide to avoid winning said
We did win
President's
in a
Cup?
99 though.
Or do we break are we the ones that
Stanley
break the curse?
So maybe the Stars are the exception.
against their opponent tonight, Buffalo Sabres. I don't know. I don't particularly subscribe to the, and you'll see a bit of that as we go back to the Masters, the par 3 contest.
Yeah.
Whoever's won the par 3 contest has never won the Masters. So there are guys that will purposefully
throw it.
Yeah, or just pick up their ball in the last hole and not register a score because they don't want to win it, because historically they feel like there's a jinx there that if you win the par 3 contest,
oh my God,
you don't win the tournament. None of those guys want to show up and win the par 3 contest. They don't care. So yeah, I mean, I don't subscribe to those theories necessarily. If I'm Dallas, I keep my foot on the gas as long as I need to, and if that results in a President's Cup, so be it.
Yeah.
What is the wildest sports superstition story you've ever heard?
Are you familiar with the New York Mets reliever Turk Wendell? He had multiple superstitions to the point of like OCD weirdness, and he would brush his teeth in between innings.
Good hygiene, though.
I think he either did a cross or a heart on the back of the mound. Every time he would come out, he would take his shoe and draw a heart on the mound. He always wore those like shark tooth necklaces. He was extremely bizarre.
Oh,
he had
my
like
goodness.
10 of these like random superstitions.
Wow.
The best was brushing his teeth in between it,
Yeah.
which was really strange. But that's probably the wildest like superstition collection of superstitions that I've ever heard.
Do you have one?
I don't know if I've heard like a crazy one. I just know coming out of like the MMA world, like the song, having the same song over and over again to walk out to because they believe like changing this song. Actually, here's one that I haven't heard, but I realized though. For as many times Thunderstruck was picked as a walkout, that fighter would lose.
I did hear that one.
Yeah.
That's why no one chooses it anymore.
Yeah, so, which,
Okay.
you know, that sucks for ACDC because it's a great song, like, for sports.
Yeah, sure.
But every time, there's been a loss. I think even Manny Pacquiao's come out to it. Now, he's had some wins, but he's definitely had some losses, so.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the one that I like the most, the funniest one I would say, is Jason Terry was one of my favorite players growing up, and he used to sleep in the opposing team's basketball shorts before they played.
Interesting. Different.
Yeah. But yeah, I would feel like MMA, like us being around a lot of UFC fighters, they all have weird superstitions.
They have a lot.
I feel
And
like by and
routines.
large, mixed martial artists or people that are into martial arts and aren't necessarily even at the professional level are very spiritual people.
Yeah, definitely.
In general, so
Yeah.
I think that probably leads them to being a little bit more superstitious.
Yeah, and I think especially for that frame of mind, that battle, that walkout, you know, find what works for you, and if you feel like that is.
They're also very creatures of routine.
Yeah.
Like things have to go down a certain way. I know like one of my coaches before a fight ate a different meal than he normally eats before he fights. He got food poisoning right before his fight.
See,
There
that's a
you go.
mistake.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have done that.
Lyoto Machida, I don't know if this is a superstition, but he used to drink his own urine. So,
That's a very strange one.
yeah. So, you know, whatever works, right?
Ugh, gross. All right, on the other side, with the Dallas Mavs also having 4 games left against some pretty, I'm not going to say easy teams, but 2 out of the 4 teams have essentially been eliminated or they're low seeds with the Hornets and the Pistons. We have a matchup against the Heat and the Thunder is our final game. I feel like this is an opportunity for load management for Luka, but am I just being too conservative?
Probably.
Yeah?
I mean, I think, me personally, load management seems to be a bit of hooey. Especially if you're riding kind of again, much like the Stars, they've been wildly hot here recently.
Yes, they have.
And if you
And they rested Luka against the Warriors, and they still won that game.
right, and then the game Sunday was just
That was amazing.
bananas.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I could see maybe giving him a blow a little more often during the games, but actually sitting him for one. I mean, I guess you could probably sit him against the Pistons.
I would sit him against the
They're
Pistons.
terrible.
Yeah.
You probably still win that game.
I just don't
but-
want to risk it. I feel like every time we get into the playoffs, and we're probably going to match up against the Clippers, which makes me like physically ill. But you know, he does have injury history. He does have ankle issues. You know, I just worry, and I'm glad we have Kyrie. Like finally, we have someone who can kind of offset and complement him.
There's no doubt.
But I do worry that, you know, we do push him a little too hard. And if I can get him, you know, the Pistons game off, I would even have taken tonight off, to be perfectly honest. I think that
And we may see that. I'm not
success-
sure if they've said he's going to play tonight
I
or not.
didn't hear one way or another.
And I think Lively's still out like at
He
least
is.
one more.
Yeah,
at least one more
that's
week,
load
so-
management too. He's out with knee soreness, but
And
it's
they're going to
good.
need him for a postseason
Yes.
run, so I'm okay with
Definitely.
them trying to get him as close to 100% as possible. I don't think they can probably get him all the way there. At this point in the season, I don't think you're going to have anybody that's really 100%, but
the great
as close
thing
as you
is
can get him, great.
We have the bench. We
Yeah.
have the resources that we
PJ.
didn't have before between PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. What do you guys think is like our secret sauce? What do you think is going to put us over the edge and make us successful in this playoff run?
I think that I call him the draft steal. I think Derek Lively, he's been that third guy that when you need somebody to make that impact, he has. And to do it at this early stage in his career, I mean, his composure, his confidence, the swagger he has, I think you're going to need that in the postseason.
Yeah, certainly, and Luka's going to Luka.
Yeah, definitely.
I think what you really need is Kyrie to continue to be a fourth quarter machine like he has been for the last 3 or 4 weeks, you're finally seeing him start to take over games, especially when Luka seems to be having maybe a bit of an off night. And Luka also doesn't have to be just a complete volume shooter like he was to succeed. And yes, Luka's numbers have been gaudy this year, but he hasn't been shooting them all quite as much because he does have complementary pieces to help take some of that load off of his shoulders. And I think when you have that recipe, and now you have some depth because of what you did at the trade deadline, they're a dangerous team. And if I'm any other team in the Western Conference postseason, I'm not so sure I want to see the Mavericks in the playoffs, especially if you're going to get MVP caliber Luka and a whole complementary arsenal to come along with it.
Yep, I'm going to, piggyback on what you said. For me, it's the bench, and it kind of reminds me of the team chemistry we had, I think it was 2 years ago, where our bench kept getting technicals because we were just so rowdy. I feel like the chemistry for this team has really built over the last month, and that bench is going to be integral in the playoff run. You know, taking that pressure off of Luka and Kyrie, having someone like Timmy Hardaway Jr., fingers crossed, that he picks it up and he does what he's supposed to do. If I can get at least 12 points a game from Timmy Hardaway Jr., I'm happy with it.
Well, at this point, I mean, I don't think you need him to do as much because you have guys like Exum that can shoot the ball.
Yeah, Exum's having a great season.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ballsiest shot as you'll ever see that he made the other night to send it to overtime. I mean, and if you've got guys that can help take a little bit of that burden off of Tim Hardaway, especially whenever he's struggling so mightily, that it can only help. So
yeah.
And I want to ask another factor, because I think this will be huge, is coming down to coaching too, and Jason Kidd and that pressure.
He's coaching for his contract.
He's coaching for his contract. From your perspective, how do you feel now about Kidd? How did you kind of feel about a little bit, before? Because it took a lot. If you're on X every day, there's a lot of heat there, and a lot of times rightfully so. But what do you think so far, and how's your confidence in him?
I'm not the biggest fan of Kidd as a head coach. I think he's maybe just a hair too quiet and soft-spoken.
Agreed.
I think X's and O's wise, I think he's probably a pretty smart guy. But you also have to understand, like, the days of the Rick Carlisle just dressing everybody down, it really doesn't work to motivate anymore. I mean, the Bobby Knights of the world and guys like that just, Vince Lombardi's, I mean, they could never coach in today's game because it doesn't work. I mean, the players just turn on you. And I think Kidd has that aspect of it down. I think he's probably a better motivator behind closed doors than we give him credit for.
Yeah,
and I think X's and O's wise, he's pretty solid. I mean, if you're asking me to grade him so far since he's been the Mavs head coach, I'm probably giving him like a C+, B-.
Okay.
But
that's fair.
He's okay. I mean, now if they make another run to the Western Conference Finals this year or maybe beyond, then grade might bump up to a B+.
I was concerned going into the season. Charlie and I would talk about the rotations he was putting out there, the choices he was making, the minutes that Luka had to play. And I felt like when we traded for Kyrie last year, he kind of fumbled the bag a little bit, because after we traded for Kyrie, we went on this insane losing streak. We missed the playoffs. My trust meter, Jason Kidd, was significantly down, and I think this season, like you said, he's really been able to readjust. They traded for the right pieces that actually complement Luka. I was telling him, I feel like Luka's got the same kind of team that he has when he plays with the Slovenian national team.
Sure.
There's so much more trust and there's so much more fun, and I think you're right. That's what makes Jason Kidd a great players coach. But on the other side, there's got to be some level of accountability on this team, and I feel like he has to find that balance. He needs to, take some notes from Dawn Staley, because I think she does a really good job of, she's so fun. She's out there dancing on the court, but she also ripped into her girls when they were down in the tournament against Indiana. So I think he's great. I wouldn't give him as low as a C, even though I'm such a hater. I would probably say a B- to this point.
That's fair. I think you also have to look at, if we're talking about last season, and even to an extent most of Luka's career, if you look at the shot that Exum took the other night to tie the game and send it to overtime, essentially win the game, because it just shot Houston's wheels off. You knew they were not going to win that game after that happened. That's a shot that last year, and probably for his entire career, Luka takes that shot 10 times out of 10.
Agreed.
And now he has trust in other guys to be able to put that shot up and make that shot, where he's not passing it to Tim Hardaway Jr. going, oh God, here
comes the failure.
Here comes a Timmy brick that, and so there's an element of that too that I don't think we're giving Kidd enough credit for knowing that, okay, now I have the pieces and now I know what those rotations should look like. And Kyrie was such a wild card when they traded for him that just naturally he had to be like, oh God, what are we going to do with this guy? You know, like he's been so crazy his whole career, and you just wonder what Kyrie you're getting, and you wonder how much you should play him and how he and Luka are going to gel together, which they didn't at all for the first month and a half he was here. And that's why it was just a nightmare.
It was so
people,
awkward.
you know, questioning, why did they trade for him? Okay, what's Kid doing with him? Okay, this is all Kid's fault. How can he not make them work together? There was a feeling out process there that unfortunately cost them a playoff berth last year, but now you're seeing them really start to play well together, and with all those other rotational pieces, it makes for a pretty successful lineup.
Yeah, definitely, and that's why I said the team chemistry is an all-time high that we haven't seen in a while, and it's really exciting. I got one more basketball question for you before we go to the Final Four. Bronny James has declared for the NBA draft and entered the transfer portal. Dallas was thrown out there for multiple reasons. Luka and LeBron have a relationship, but also the chances of Bronny transferring to SMU was a thing because his coach left USC and went to SMU. Do you have any thoughts on what happens to the future of Bronny and LeBron James?
I mean, I think the probably original plan for LeBron is they would like to have played together.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know if that's going to be the case now. I don't think Bronny is quite panned out like they had hoped. He's not going to be a lottery pick.
And it's unfortunate with the heart condition. His minutes were slashed early.
Question. Yeah, no question.
Were you surprised that he declared for the draft?
Yeah,
so was I.
Would say
I think it's a little premature right now.
Definitely.
I want to see more from him.
I mean, he could probably make more money doing NIL stuff, to be honest, or just go play in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see him pretty much doing anything. I mean, he's not going to get drafted very high, if at all.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I feel like
he'll probably just be a G League guy.
There was like conversation about, you know, behind the scenes, quote unquote, tampering, that if a team commits to drafting Bronny James in the second round, for example, that there would be some deal that LeBron would be going to that team as well.
It seems very tinfoil hat-y, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
I mean, LeBron's clearly, you know, kept himself as physically fit as anybody in the history of the game, or maybe in the history of sports. So he could potentially play for 3 or 4 more years, but he's definitely getting into the twilight of his career now.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I mean, I'm right there with you. I feel like Bronny, it's a little too, when I heard that, I was like, we haven't seen enough. And then I just think it's a big disservice to him if his ceiling is pretty high, like, to go right now. Let's see what else. Like you said, NIL, I want to see him 100%, if he can be 100% healthy, and then we can make that decision. But why, like, lower your stock?
Right. All right, well, speaking of basketball, the Final Four did wrap up this past weekend. We saw some amazing games. Records were broken, especially on the women's side. UConn, back-to-back men's champs. South Carolina, undefeated season for the women. Just give me a hot takeaway real quick.
Man, I mean, both UConn and South Carolina just keeping that dominance, you know, just really separating from the pack and showing this is our year, and it was incredible basketball to watch.
Yeah, as a woman who grew up playing basketball, and just literally from last year watching Caitlin Clark start her run and telling all my friends, y'all have to watch these games, you have to watch these games. I didn't miss a single one of the games. I enjoyed every minute of it, and it was just so, like, I don't know, it was just so important to me. Like, I didn't watch women's basketball up until last year, and now it's like everybody knew like 5 to 10 women's players but couldn't name a single men's player. Like, that's just so wild to me, so I enjoyed it.
I don't think there's any doubt that Caitlin Clark has definitely changed the women's basketball, the way people look at it over the last couple of years, and I haven't seen the numbers on this, but I would assume it has to be the most watched women's championship by a lot.
They said that more people tuned into that Iowa-LSU game than the World Series.
Not surprising. I mean, when you have the Rangers
and some other, there was like a bunch of
Arizona. I mean, it was
Stanley Cup, I think, was on that list, and something else. But yeah.
Well, I mean, which is awesome. I mean, that's a great, a great start, and for women's basketball, and also, hats off to Paige Beckers too, what UConn did, and especially
her coming back from injury. Yes,
was huge. So, and they had a heck of a game against Iowa in that Final Four. So.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I couldn't maybe do with maybe just a little bit less Caitlin Clark coverage.
Yeah.
But
it's still
a good story, and I hated to see And I guess the game was close a few times where it looked like Iowa was trying to make a run there late, but South Carolina kind of dominated the game from start to finish, so it wasn't maybe as exciting as it could have been.
Yeah, outside of their game against Indiana, South Carolina was borderline untouchable.
Yeah, I mean, they're just big, and they're very, very strong, very athletic, and
they've only got one player leaving.
Right, and there's
so
only so many three-pointers that
Yeah.
you can overcome that with. You know, I mean, it's hard to overcome when you've got one girl that's just firing up threes. I mean, it's hard to do, but it was definitely the most intriguing women's tournament I can remember.
Yeah, for sure. And we have the WNBA draft on Monday night, so it is going to be really interesting to see where these brand new stars essentially are going to end up. The Vegas Aces have already said, okay, when we play the Indiana Fever, we're not playing in our home stadium. We're playing at T-Mobile because we know Caitlin Clark's going to bring in a lot of people. So it's going to be interesting to see how other WNBA teams are adjusting to this influx of new fans. And I am so here for it.
It's going to be exciting to see, and just over on the men's side too. I mean, congrats again to UConn. I mean, to be the first back-to-back champion since 2007.
Since Florida.
Dominant. Yeah.
And really a pretty boring tournament from start to finish.
Yeah.
UConn was just almost untouchable, and I, had arguments with friends. I'm like, man, you can say what you want about Purdue. They're really solid. UConn is going to buzzsaw them. And I didn't have any problem saying it, and that's pretty much what we saw last night.
I would say the slight excitement though was NC State as far as they were
Sure,
able to go.
a little bit
I
of
think they were the
Cinderella.
little flavor to
Yeah,
the
there's no
spice,
doubt.
but it
Yeah.
was UConn's tournament in the end.
Yeah.
Also, to have two schools represented in both tournaments with UConn and NC State, I thought that was pretty cool too.
Well, and we can cheers because she won in our podcast bracket. She won the women's bracket.
And he won the men's bracket.
So we have a little fireball shot right here.
A little fireball.
So there we go.
Congratulations.
Cheers. Yeah, that's like a big red on fire. Yeah.
You'll let it sit there and get nice and warm too.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it.
I don't mind it.
It's tingling.
I like spicy things.
So, but yeah, no, great tournament. So,
That's that. So last thing we got to get into. I know we've had like a really long show, but biggest pay-per-view, UFC 300 taking place in Vegas.
yes.
Again, Maple Landing, where we're at, is hosting a watch party that I will be at. Looking forward to it. It seems like a really great place to watch fights. Bring your friends. I'll buy you a shot maybe if you're nice to me. But this card, top to bottom, absolutely solid. I was making a joke like Cody Garbrandt is opening the fights on the early prelims, and he's a mega star.
A lot of former champions on the prelims, which is very interesting, and that just shows how stacked, pretty much that main card is. Because I remember UFC 100 and back in 2009, Brock Lesnar, Frank Mir, how big that was.
The GSP and Thiago Alves.
Yeah, that was a great,
on that card. Yeah.
And then
top to bottom, it was really good.
it was really good.
Henderson Bisbing was on that card too.
The biggest knockout
the
of the
most
decade.
electric knockout ever. We were actually I was in Norman, Oklahoma this last week, and they were replaying UFC 100 on the TV at the bar we were at. And I was like, oh man, you'll have to watch this knockout. Watch this knockout. Wait for it. Oh!
And then UFC 200 was the rise of Amanda Nunes.
I know
she
that
won
was
the belt
important to
from
me.
Miesha Tate.
Yep, I am a huge Amanda Nunes fan. When they came, what was it, summer 22?
Yes.
Summer 2022 at American Airlines Center, Nunez and Pena was the main event, so an all-girl main event. Saw Juliana Pena at Monarch the night before, by the way. But being in the stadium and hearing how electrified everybody was to see Amanda Nunes get her belt back. God, I'm just such a big fan of hers.
Do we know if they're bringing back the horrifying yellow mat?
That's the biggest question.
That
was the biggest question.
There are prop bets on what color the canvas is going to be.
Okay.
I really hope it's not
That
that
was
horrible
horrible.
yellow.
Really hard
You
to
don't
watch.
need it. You don't need it. You
was-
don't need it.
Hopefully they've listened to some user feedback on that, and they're just going to go with the standard white.
Yes.
That is much easier on the eyes.
There was an Instagram edit where they were like, here's what it would look like: blue, green, purple.
I mean, I already
orange.
traumatized my corneas with the eclipse yesterday. I don't need to do it again on Saturday night.
I wouldn't mind going back to the traditional, the earlier days. I love that mat, the old school logo, just for that, because it is UFC 300. That one's fine. I will ask this real quick before we break down this, because I've known you've followed MMA for a long time. Fight that stands out to you all the time when you think of the UFC, like one of your all-time favorites.
Yeah, favorite fight.
Man, that's a very good question. I think probably one of my favorites, even though I wasn't real thrilled with the outcome, was the first Chael Sonnen Anderson Silva
Oh,
fight
yeah,
where
that was a
Chael had
great
him
one.
beat and then got triangled with 30 seconds
Yeah.
left.
Jesus.
That one really stands out as a fight that I enjoyed. I mean, some of the older stuff too is just still fun to fall down that rabbit hole and go watch, Don the Predator Fry, and just guys that were just complete apex meatheads back then. Back when there was not many rules to
They
it.
could just hit in the groin.
And you got just like Art Jimerson with the one boxing glove on. It's just so comical. If we're talking more modern stuff, I mean anything. I always enjoyed anything with Alistair Overeem in it. I always liked watching
he's great.
especially once he became Ubereem and was just roided to the back teeth. Those are a few that kind of stand out. I always really enjoyed Lyoto Machida, his knockout of
Rashad Evans was great.
Yeah, Rashad Evans, sure, and those are probably a few of my favorite fighters and fights.
I will say my favorite fight of all time has to be the Weili-Joanna fight.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because that came right before Adesanya and Romero. That was the fight of the night.
Yeah.
That was what everybody was talking about the next day. Both girls absolutely busted, going all 5 rounds, putting it all out there. And then Weili going on her crazy run, and we get to see her on Saturday. She's hands down one of my favorite fighters.
Even though it only
personality.
lasted 13 seconds, McGregor Aldo was.
Oh, I was thinking
yeah,
that too.
yeah.
That's on my list also.
Just all that build-up,
fight.
too.
Yeah, and for it to just be over in a blink, but.
And I would say one of my sneak attack ones, and this is super biased because I was celebrating my 29th birthday in Vegas. I got to see Usman break Colby Covington's jaw in person. I loved that. But even more so than that, Jeff Neal's knockout of Mike Perry.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
I was in the casino right before the fight, and I told my friends who are actually here, both of them are here with me, they went to Vegas with me. I told them, I said, I'm going to go bet on a first-round knockout for Jeff. They were like, don't you fucking jinx it. Don't you do it. And I'm so mad I did it, but it was so great to watch.
See, that's why you shouldn't believe in superstitions
Yeah.
and jinxes. Cost yourself some money.
I have to say my all-time favorite fight was Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard 2.
Yeah. That entire trilogy was good.
It kicked off the 2011 year, and I'll just say real quick, the reason why is the first round it looked like Edgar was done. He got dropped. He rolled backwards. Second round, slams Gray Maynard, out wrestles him, and they're back and forth. It ended up being a draw, and like you said, the third one almost was the same result. But I love that. Of course, we wouldn't be here today with UFC without Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Bartle,
sure.
RIP.
Yeah.
That was great. But the fight that also stood out, that got me really interested in MMA was Rashad Evans versus Sean Salmon, and
the head kick.
The head kick, and that put me down, and for the rabbit hole in UFC, and I was glued, and I was reading every one of them. But I mean, there's so many great matches, and it's good to see where we remember when in the early days to where it is now. I mean, it was illegal in a lot of states.
Yeah, most
and
states.
now so many smaller promotions in the area building to that and all the talent.
Speaking of smaller promotions, Charlie and I are going to be working True Grit in Cleburne.
Yep.
Cleburne. How do you say it?
Cleburne.
Cleburne.
Texas.
Cleburne.
Oh my God, you guys keep yelling at me for this.
FFL.
Triple FL. We'll be doing the pre-show. We'll be commentating. It's more than just fights. It's also going to be a concert. There's flash tattoos. It's on 420. But we're definitely looking forward to that. We are huge fans of local talent. Charlie and I have been in the Dallas MMA scene for me over 10 years. You possibly longer. So yeah, I'm all in. But let's dive into UFC 300.
Let's do it.
Super stat card. I know we could sit here for hours and break down every single fight. But I'm gonna start with you, Charlie. What is the fight you're looking forward to the most on this hella stacked card?
Man, I'm gonna go straight to the main card just because I love both these fighters, because this is gonna be the popcorn fight. Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway.
And the flower shorts.
And just because, Max is going back up to 155. The last time we saw him there, he lost to Dustin Poirier in a heck of a fight, heck of a showing, back and forth. And we know how game Gaethje is and how dangerous he's coming off that very nasty head kick over Dustin Poirier, so he's explosive. But Max, I just wanted to see him point to the ground like he did against Ricardo Lamas at 145 and say, let's go. Because that's a guy that is going to bring up that extra dog in Justin and vice versa.
It's for the BMF belt.
Yeah.
It has to be a slump fest.
Am I the only one that just detests the BMF belt?
Yeah, they don't need the belt.
Cheesy.
They don't need it,
Yeah.
but it makes it fun and interesting.
But I love that fight.
I agree that it's okay.
Especially
it's kind
this
of cool
specific
to like
matchup.
carry it around, but this fight is obviously the one
Yeah.
that I immediately looked at. Another one that I'm very interested in is a couple of light heavyweights and Jiri Prochazka and Alexander Rakic.
That should be a
That is
should be
going to
a
be good.
banger.
I love your.
And I'm interested to see Rayya. Rayya, he blew out his knee in 2022 against Jan Blachowicz. And he's one of these guys on the rise. So I'm interested to see what he looks like. And then Yuri post, Pereira loss. I mean, that guy just gets better and better and better. And he's so unorthodox.
Yeah.
Dangerous. Also, Charles Oliveira, too.
Do you always do this? Get
Yeah.
out of my head. Yeah, I love Charlie Owens. He's one of my favorite fighters. I feel like he's so well-rounded. I would love to see him take this win because I want to see him go up against Islam again. I feel like he is the best match for Islam. And then also, I'm going to say Aljamain Sterling moving up to 145 against Calvin Kattar.
Sure, love that.
Super excited. Aljo, fun fact, he was at Happiest Hour. Was that also summer 2022? I was out with my girlfriends. We were getting drinks at Happiest Hour, and I see Aljo walk by, and at the time he's the reigning 135 champ. I go, "Hey, champ!" like across the restaurant because obviously I've had a couple drinks. But he was so excited to get recognized. He's like, "You know who I am?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I know who you are." And he took a picture with me and everything, and he was so nice.
Well, and that's a pick 'em. Kattar also coming off of a knee injury in 2022 as well. And so, Aljo's had a cut around like 170, did get down 135, which is crazy. So he will have, I think, that speed advantage, in forcing Kattar to stuff those takedowns with that knee. But Kattar makes every fight, win or lose, a dog fight.
Agreed.
And so that's a pick 'em for me. I just want to say just real quick with Charles and his opponent. I know his opponent doesn't. I always miss Tarzizian. I think I always miss Brad Palman. His UFC debut was against Islam. He lost that fight, but he took Islam down, and that's a big feat in itself. And the guy's wrestling is really good, so I'm excited. I want to see that fight on the ground. I want to see how it plays because he's a really good grappler. But
what are our thoughts on the Bo Nickel train and the fact that they're just force feeding him?
Yes.
Cody Brundage.
It is giving shades of Sage Northcutt. Like they are literally forcing him everywhere, every chance they get. And I get he's super talented. I watched him on Contender Series.
But to have him on the main card as a minus 1,400 favorite.
It's just
that's been the big backlash because you do have these. We haven't even talked about Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison's debut.
Yeah, that was on my list.
Which
I want
that
to
could
see
be
Kayla.
a fight night main event, a co-main event.
All of these could be main events.
You have all these champions post Jessica Andrade, and that's been the big knock. I would say it's more like a Sugar Sean O'Malley than it is a Sage because Sugar, they did this, they slowly built them up, they wanted that exposure. True. I mean, obviously, I'm going to say
Yeah, but
this.
I felt like Sage was, Sean is like worth the hype. He has his own brand, he like has a personality, he's out there in the media, he does stuff. Bo Nickel, you're just seeing him on these cards. We don't know what Bo Nickel's like in his personal life. Do you follow him on Instagram? Because I don't.
So, I mean, Bo is that guy that when you bring in somebody who can be the big question mark at 185, he is. He is the best wrestler in the UFC.
He's one of them, yeah.
He's one of them. You could say Islam, you could say Hazmat. He believes he can beat Hazmat. This guy was in the, wrestled one of the all-time greats in Jordan Burroughs. This guy is the collegiate record holder at Penn State, so they believe it, and he knocks people out. He is green, but that's why I think they're building him up because he does have that what-if factor. He does, and he's cocky, he's confident.
But I feel like this is not the card he should have been on. This is supposed to be like a whole spectacle of like who all these other fighters are.
I wouldn't hate it as much if they gave him a legitimate opponent.
That's true.
Where he wasn't a gigantic.
Someone he
he is
could
by
walk all over,
far the biggest favorite on this card, and it's not close.
Give him a top 15. I think he can get right in there because, that
Give
wrestling...
him Kevin Holland.
I don't know if he wants another wrestler, but it's funny,
but I'm saying that's like a legitimate matchup. That is something people will watch. Kevin Holland has that personality. He had a chokehold on the division during the pandemic, fighting like 8 times. Everybody knows who he is.
I'll give you one better. Derek Bronson, another standout wrestler. Like, see, that guy... and he was the 185 wrestler before Osmont moved up. And so guys like that, because I think his wrestling ability is up there. We'll see if he can put it all together. But I agree. I mean, especially when you have so many former champions that got pushed to the prelims. So
yeah, that's just wild to me that we're looking at Aljo on the prelims. We're looking at Cody Garbrandt on the early prelims. Jessica Andrade, early prelims. That's just so crazy. Like, that's how stacked this card is.
now you mentioned, Zhang Weili, and this is actually a great matchup because Yan Zhazhan doesn't get a lot of exposure, but her last fight was incredible against Jessica Andrade, first round knockout, so she showed the power she has. She's very durable, very come forward, but we see how well put together Zhang is, and you got to be so precise, which we saw in those Rose Namajunas fights, and she got even better post that and bettered her wrestling. What do you guys think about that matchup?
I mean, it's a master stroke by the UFC, because you're going to get a billion people in China watching it.
Yep.
So
I was thinking I keep calling it the Battle of China. Literally.
Yeah, right. I mean, most of them. I mean, so you're opening up a pretty large market by putting together the first ever dual Chinese title fight. So
and they just opened the
cool.
PI in Shanghai.
Yeah, right. And so so that's cool. I mean, I'm not extremely familiar with their fight histories, but I have watched a little bit of it, and they both seem to be pretty engaged when it comes to striking. So I think you could see some meat candy being distributed.
I will say Weili has made it a point to improve her jiu-jitsu. She's been working really hard on that, even though all of her fights have come out, via striking and knockout and stuff. She's been traveling all over the world, training with other top jiu-jitsu fighters, just leveling up her game. And there's so many cute videos of her training with Francis Ngannou, for example.
She picked him
up. She's a strawweight, and she picked up a heavyweight.
Well, and Jan now has been training with Uriah Faber and Team Alpha now too, so it will be interesting to see if this does go to the ground, because both have good striking. I mean, I would give the nod to Weili on that, but I mean, if it goes to the ground, it could be a pick 'em there, and I'm excited for the chess match.
Yeah, and we love the action at strawweight. There's been lots of moving parts in that top 5. This is the right matchup for the belt, and I'm stoked.
And then, of course, main event time. I don't know how far this is going to go. Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill, who unfortunately had to relinquish the belt because Achilles, who was playing basketball with other UFC fighters during the International Fight Week. And
you hate to see it.
Yeah.
I would imagine Pereira probably makes pretty quick work of him, but I mean, it all just depends on the amount of ring rust. If there's a lot of rust there, it could be over pretty quick. But I mean, both these guys are dogs though, man, and they'll fight. I mean, so it could turn into something pretty special. But I don't think this main event
I was gonna say
really does it for me. Yeah. But I mean,
because when you look at the card top to bottom, is this the right main event?
I think you could just as easily have put Gaethje and Holloway as the main event.
Yeah.
But they're fighting for the BMF title.
I know.
You want it to be for a legitimate
and
title.
I know they really wanted Stipe and John Jones here in this spot, but
this would have been the perfect vehicle for John Jones, Francis Ngannou, and the UFC letting Ngannou get away. And
or Conor and
never see that fight. But I don't think Conor's ready to come back yet. I think he looks strung out, man. There's something going on with him.
I don't think Chandler's the right opponent. I think division-wise and ranking-wise, mathematically, sure. But I feel like there's so much, if Conor McGregor does decide to come back, if Conor McGregor gets in fighting shape, if Conor McGregor can pass a drug test, there are other fighters that you can put him up against in this kind of slot that make more sense than Michael Chandler.
Here's where I disagree, though, about Chandler's not the right. Chandler doesn't revert back to what got him here when he was the Bellator champion, which was his wrestling. He gets in gunfights. Conor's a perfect counter striker, where Dustin is pure classic boxing. And so that is perfect for Conor because he's going to come forward and he's going to get caught. Exactly what Charles Oliveira did to him. That's why, if he doesn't shoot that takedown, which he should, he can clip Mike.
But you're making my point.
Yeah.
That's the logical thing.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor is not supposed to be logical, man. Conor McGregor is a show. I don't want to see...
He's a brand at this point.
Yeah,
you're going to have to give him Tony Ferguson.
I don't want to see the obvious thing happen.
You got to give him Tony Ferguson. Or Nate Diaz 3.
Yeah, I would rather see... Honestly, I would rather see Nate Diaz 3. Put him against Jorge Masvidal for all I care.
I don't know if that's made that material, but
what I'm
it could
saying,
be on the card.
But what I'm saying is, if and when Conor comes back, it needs to be a spectacle.
Yeah.
It cannot. You don't have very many of these moments to choose from.
But it's just so hard.
So you have to capitalize on that. UFC is trying so hard to grow their brand, right? You know, we don't have a megastar outside of Conor McGregor on the UFC roster right now.
Except for Sugar Sean now.
I wouldn't say Sugar Sean is Conor McGregor.
But we'll
caliber.
never see another Conor McGregor.
Yeah,
That's the problem. Is he was a once in a generation.
Again, proving my point
Chuck Liddell in
is
the
when
early
he,
days.
if and when he comes back, you have to use that as a vehicle to boost the program. And if he goes up against Michael Chandler, it's like a half.
It's just so tough right now because all the possible opponents, if you want to make Conor look good, are not really there. That I'm going to be like, I want to throw the money. I mean, we saw that with the Cowboy.
Yeah.
Even though I think Cowboy underperformed in that a lot more, but you know, I don't want to see that because Conor deep down,
you're going to have to feed him a can at this point.
Yeah, and that's not a main event.
No.
That's not a main event.
And nobody's going to pay to see
that. This guy's been the former two-division champion.
And we've seen him Diaz twice. If you could do that a third time, but it would be a curtain jerker on the main card. It would not be a main event.
Poirier is long gone. He's beat him too.
No more Poirier. Agreed. Poirier literally broke his leg. Ain't nobody want to see that.
But I don't know if Conor is really excited about Chandler.
I don't know if he wants to fight him.
I don't.
Yeah.
That's
How
what I'm
about
saying.
Roadhouse? Should he do some more Roadhouse?
Okay, I'll give you my 30 seconds on Roadhouse.
Go.
The movie itself, kind of funny. Gyllenhaal's character had some funny lines, which made it watchable. Conor McGregor is the single worst acting performance I've ever seen by a human being. And honestly, I can't think of another one. You know about the Razzie Award.
Yes.
Like, if he does not win the Razzie for Worst Supporting Actor, I will be floored. I mean, it was a miracle how bad he was.
Well, it definitely...
like to the point where I'm glad I watched it so I could talk about how bad he was.
Well, how about Jake Gyllenhaal becoming the UFC middleweight champion in that, and then now he's like working Roadhouse, and it just shows the downfall
killing his friend.
Spoilers! Just kidding.
Not the best. I say rewatch the original.
No, it's a much better picture.
Yeah. But no, I like this card for the main. I mean, I think Rayya Hill for UFC 301 in Brazil would have been a little bit more, only because that card is a little underwhelming right now. And
they might all be underwhelming.
I'll say
for
the
next
story.
few months.
They're not pushing though. Rayya just beat Yuri, who beat Glover, and now he has the chance to avenge for Glover again against Jamal Hill, who beat him about a year ago. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm still stoked. Like I said, gonna be here at Maple Landing. Thank you again, Maple Landing, for having us. The whiskey selection's amazing. They got all the Texas beers, as you can see. Lots to choose from. I'm about to have some of these snacks with the brisket poutine. That is what I'm dying to try. Eli, thank you for joining us today.
So much.
Of course.
Educating us on all things golf. I am out of alcohol as usual. But yeah, next week we'll get into the 300 results and see where the Mavs and Stars pan out and check in on our Rangers. But again,
it's gonna be a good sports week.
Eli, where can we find you?
Avid Golfer Magazine, of course. You can pick that up in any of the pro shops around DFW. It's a free publication. You can find them in PGA Tour Superstores as well. You can email me at editor@myavidgolfer.com or eli@myavidgolfer.com if you want to drop me a line about anything golf related. Also on social media at the Eli Jordan. So yeah, come find me on X, on Instagram, all the good stuff.
Sounds good. And follow us at pouringtakes.com. Y'all have a great rest of the week, and we will see you next week.
Cheers.